Today we're going to cover a layer 3 hotspot control. Traditionally, we have always been talking about layer 2 hotspot control, which really is something like this. That means the users are mostly attached to the HSG LAN interface network. For example, in our lab setup, the AP bridges the wireless SSID to the VLAN, and the VLAN trunks directly to the HSG. And most of the time, the user gets IP address from the HSG, and they're sitting in the same subnet as the HSG. So sitting in the same subnet means the HSG communicates with the user using layer 2 MAC address, because the traffic doesn't route across any layer 3 networks. And even if you look at our other hotspot designs, even if you use third-party wireless controllers, the AP will have a layer 2 tunnel to the controller, and you bridge the wireless SSID to a VLAN, which trunks to the HSG. So logically, the users are always attached, rather sitting in the same subnet as the HSG LAN interface. And even if you look at some of the cloud-based or the central design, the AP tunnels the traffic to the central controller and breaks out from HSG. Really, there's a logical layer 2 network all the way from AP up to the controller, reach to the HSG LAN interface. So again, in a layer 2 network, that means the HSG will have communicates with the user using MAC address, and you has full visibility on the user's MAC address and IP address. So the hotspot control is based on a combination of MAC address and IP address. That means each session is a combination of MAC and IP and plus user ID for each hotspot sessions. But in certain scenarios, the users are sitting in a separate network. For example, in a service provider environment, the users can come from L3 VPN network. That means on a customer premise, route across L3 VPN network, and you reach to a central hosted HSG and break out from there. Or in a large, very big campus environment where they don't want to trunk the user's traffic across all the way in a layer 2 to the HSG, because they need to minimize broadcast storms. In a large campus networks, they typically run L3 core routers within the core, so that basically to break off the layer 2 broadcast domains. In this case, the users are in the layer 3 subnet, and which is different from the HSG LAN interface. The traffic has to route across a layer 3 VPN. The L3 VPN can be a group of many routers. For example, service provider backbone, or it can be some core routers in a campus switch network. So in this case, the user traffic route across a layer 3 device or layer 3 cloud and reach to HSG. And HSG will have no visibility on the user MAC address anymore, because the only MAC you see is the router's MAC address. Remember, in the OSI layer communication layers, the MAC address doesn't pass through a layer 3 device. So the HSG will only see the user's source IP address, and you only control each session based on the user IP address and user ID as well. So in today's topic, we're going to focus on the layer 3 hotspot control. We have already talked a lot on the layer 2 hotspot control, but really once the concept is clear, the actual configuration is almost the same, except that we need to turn on a flag, or rather a command to say HotSpot mode is layer 3. So the rest of the portal and radius and client network configuration are pretty much similar, but there are certain nodes that we have to take care. For example, if the L3 network, or rather the user VLANs, user subnets you can group multiple user subnets. For example, you can have many other user subnets, VLANs, and route across the layer 3 network and reach to the HSG. This network here is really like a transit VLAN, but is where the hotspot instance is enabled on the HSG. So when we configure the HSG hotspot instance for this VLAN under HSG, we have to make sure the client network here covers supersede all the range of IP address for the client subnets. Okay, when we say subnets, that means there are multiple client subnet if there are any. So there are a few other notes we just need to take care, and I will not go into details. You can always come to our doc, ransnet.com, and under advanced feature Layer-3 HotSpot Mode to get all the configuration details. So I will just for illustration purpose, I can go into the command line interface to do a quick show. So it's pretty much similar, and I got a flag that says HotSpot mode. If you do a show HotSpot control, and you get similar output, but later you will see if you do a show HotSpot control client, you don't see the client MAC address anymore because the user traffic is routed across a Layer-3 network, and when they exit the Layer-3 device, the MAC address is being rewritten to the router's own MAC address. So its meaning is to capture that MAC anyway. So I've already configured the portal, and I've already configured the HSG, and there are some sample configuration on the router here just to simulate a Layer-3 network. You can take a look at that sample config here. Really, we have created a VLAN 20 for the user VLAN and VLAN 10 as a transit VLAN in between the L3 device and HSG. So this router is configured to give DHCP IP to the user instead of HSG. You can also use external DHCP server to issue a user IP address as well, as long as the user subnets are routable to the HSG. So just do a quick lab demo, and just to show you that it still works even on the Layer-3 HotSpot mode. And now I'm going to connect to VLAN 20 because the VLAN 20 is the user VLAN. So I'm getting the landing page, and I can click on any of the access options, the same as L3 HotSpot control. So if you go back to the mbox UI, you go to the radius, you can actually see the online user, which is my PC, my phone here. And this MAC address here is not the device MAC address, it's the router's MAC address. If you do a show ARP, this MAC is really mapping to the router's IP address. So just for illustration purpose, I'm going to connect another phone to the same VLAN 20. So coming from the same network, and you can use Facebook or direct access with whichever option you configure. So now if you click on the online user, because it's direct access, so there's a dummy user ID, is demo user. So they all have the same MAC address. Again, this is really the router's MAC address, not the actual device MAC address. So if you show HotSpot clients, you don't see the MAC, you see the IP address. These are the individual HotSpot client sessions. And you will, the rest are very much similar. If you're signing with Facebook, we'll still put on your Facebook profile and auto attach an access control profile here as well. And you can also customize your CMS. And this is exactly what we see from a client device when they initially engage to the Wi-Fi. That's all pretty much all for today. And if you need more details, please do come back to the online documentation, and you send us an email if you have any more queries. Thank you very much for watching. See you next week.